Yep.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I call the December 8th, 2025 meeting of the Carver School Committee into open session at 6 p.m. If everyone could please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for being here. Always lovely to see a nice crowd, smiling faces. We're going to kick off our meeting tonight with some recognitions.
So tonight we're going to recognize and congratulate some of our students who achieved exceeds expectations on last spring's MCAS exam. To all of our students, this is an outstanding accomplishment that is a testament to your hard work, perseverance, and commitment to academic excellence. You have demonstrated not only mastery of the content, but also curiosity, critical thinking, and determination that sets you apart as high achievers. We're all incredibly proud of you. We know you're going to keep reaching for new heights, and today's achievements are just the beginning for you and all the things you're capable of. So congratulations to our students who achieved high expectations on the MCAS exam. We've done this over a few meetings because we had several students throughout the district, so we're on the back third of the alphabet tonight. We have a certificate to recognize each student, and what's going to happen is I'm going to call you up, and then we're going to ask you to stay up front until everyone is called, and then we'll have an opportunity for pictures. All right. And Mr. Griffin's going to help me. I think. You have a lot of different things in the way. So look up. All right. So first, Samantha Preston for exceeding expectations in ELA. Lucas Pringle for exceeding expectations in math. Aaron Reed for exceeding expectations in ELA. Trey Sayo for exceeding expectations in science. Oh, Tracy, yeah, Tracy. Tracy, come on. No, we want people to come up. We're going to shake your hand. I didn't think you were stay around. Tracy, if you stay up front, I want you hopefully get to stay up front. In front of the school.
Right there. Just come stand right here, Trace. Stand right here. Yep.
There you go, Tracy.
Hopefully you'll be company.
Exceeding MCAS in math and ELA. Jude Sullivan for exceeding expectations in ELA. Lucas Sullivan for exceeding expectations in math. Ella Tulin for exceeding expectations in English. Congratulations. Paige Voss for exceeding expectations in math. Bennett Wallace for exceeding expectations in math. Jameson Whipple for exceeding expectations in math. And Luna Wiggin for exceeding expectations in ELA. Do you want to do a picture? We usually do a picture at the school committees. Everybody come in, get tight. Tall people in the back.
Kids come up front a little bit.
Yeah, kids come front a little bit. There we go.
Look proud to be there. It's a big group.
Okay, I'm gonna take a couple. And then stay still for your parents, please.
Parents, come on, 40% of you want.
I got it. No problem.
More. Smile. More. Thanks, everybody.
I'm going to say, as always, everyone's welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go enjoy the rest of your evening. So thank you for being here. Congratulations. Just going to pause for a moment as people exit the room. For those at home. Hey, Tom. Again, congrats to all of our students for their amazing accomplishments with MCAS. Also proud of you. So next, this brings us to comments from the EAPC, and we have Tom Pinto with us.
Can't hear you not great, Tom. Let's try. Sit up. Okay, we're good. We're good enough.
I'll be loud.
Don't know this.
So I hear the echo. First of all, I apologize for being last meeting. I actually feel that my own cancellation was down and out for a little bit on the month of November. That being said, kind of segue into this agenda on health insurance. I know there's a health insurance update. I was with Scott and Ron earlier today. As I think there's been heavy discussions on this, and I think we could probably get more into it. But I feel like personally we're kind of in a perfect storm of situations. But I mean, I think there's a lot of good dialogue, a lot of good discussion, a lot of conversations. I don't know if anything's all positive, but I think everybody's kind of put their heads together to do the best we can. So I know school committee, again, health insurance, it doesn't directly affect you guys, but obviously employees and whatnot, and budgets and whatnot. But again, I think health insurance has become the name of the game this past month or so. And again, we're all kind of actively working on it together as a team. And I know Ron and Scott will update it out, but that's all I have. Again, for everybody has a great holiday. Sorry, again, I wasn't around in November, but hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hope everybody has a great holiday and enjoys the summer. Thanks, everybody.
Tom, I'd just like to say thank you for your support and your support on the health insurance issues. So Tom, I said thank you for your support and the union support on the health insurance issues. I think we're discussing them because we all have been working collaboratively on those issues.
Yes. Thank you very much. Also, happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you for all the work that you do. Okay, so that is going to bring us to comments from the middle school ambassadors.
So we're excited to have Autumn Doyle, Emery Lynch, Bethany Tu, Haley Valera, and Josephine Broom here with us. Give me a second to pull up the
There you go.
presentation.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. That little thing in the middle of the table is the microphone, so just do your best to speak a little loudly so everyone at home can hear you.
The middle school student ambassadors attended a Halloween social in October. We dressed up in costumes, ate lots of snacks, and listened to music.
The 6th grade students attended Diversity Day, which was arranged by our special education department. We learned about disabilities. We were able to get a sense of what it might be like to have a vision impairment and attention difficulties. We learned so much on this day and have a better understanding of what a disability is.
The student ambassadors gathered together to help families get to classes during the Parent and Guardian Conference Day. This is one of the many events that we will help out with.
There are currently 15 students who are getting trained to be certified babysitters. These students are learning about CPR, first aid, and how to handle all different types of behaviors they may face when babysitting. The students recently learned how to change a diaper and how to keep the child or baby safe. They will graduate from the program in December and will receive a Safe Sitter certification card. There will be 15 more students who will get certified next semester. We want to thank our 2025 Project 351 ambassador, Sydney Matrano, for doing a great job as our ambassador throughout the last year. As her remaining service project, Sydney arranged a good drive to support the Shane Gives Thanks food pantry. She collected and organized and boxed over 1,000 food items. We appreciate all that she has done for the community. As Sydney finished up her role as an ambassador, we are happy to announce our 2026 Project 351 ambassador, Mallory Doyle. We know Mallory will do a great job representing our school and community. Project 351 has one eighth grader from every community in Massachusetts and lead them through a year of service and youth.
We recently had an art contest at our schools. Students in middle school art and high school art had their work on display for the school to view. We were able to vote for our favorite drawing. Our own ambassador, Hallie, was one of our winners for middle school. We were all impressed with detailed pumpkins and haunted houses that the students created.
The Caring Crusaders created keychains and handed them out to classmates who were being caring to each other or saw someone else being kind.
The middle school student drama club presented Shrek as their final fall production.
Eighth grade students had the opportunity to visit Old Colony Regional Vocational High School to learn about a vocational school and the trades career field. They were able to try out some activities that the high schools provided.
The student ambassadors organized the 12 Days of Kindness, which started today. Each day will feature a different kindness challenge to help spread positivity throughout our school. Students who are caught showing acts of kindness will have a chance to win a candy cane. This is the flyer to remind students what acts of kindness are each day. Thank you so much for having us here today. It was our pleasure to tell you what was going on so far this school year.
Thank you for being
very much,
here.
John. I was gonna ask you a couple of questions, but I think they're good.
Slip down under the table.
Someone lost one.
Caught that, but Hallie was one of the art winners.
Holly was an art winner.
Congrats.
And how did the first day of the 12 Days of Kindness go?
Good.
Good.
Announcing the winners in the morning.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I
Thank
think
you
we
for
had
being here.
9 winners today. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your night. Okay, so that brings us to comments from the general public. So if there's anyone that's going to be left in the room that would like to speak, you're more than welcome to if you just come up to the table. I'm not sure if we have any.
There's no one on Zoom. There's
Okay.
no one on Meets tonight besides Tom.
Okay, so then seeing no motion towards the microphone and no one online to be recognized, we will move on to the next item, which is the approval of minutes. And we have 4 sets of minutes to approve this
Do
evening.
we have to do it separately or?
Executive session, we absolutely have to do separately.
Yeah, I would suggest you do the minutes separately.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to,
I move that we approve the school committee workshop retreat minutes from September 23rd, 2024.
And I second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
I move to the school committee accepts the open session minutes from November 17th, 2025.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
I move that we accept the open session minutes from November 24th, 2025.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye. And I make a motion that we approve the executive session minutes from November 24, 2025, not for release.
And, oh, sorry.
Oh, and I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote because it is for executive session minutes. So Stephanie Clarity, aye.
Katie Sullivan, aye.
Jackie Lake, aye.
Bill Cullen, aye.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. No communications?
No
this
communications tonight, so we can go right into reports from the
Okay.
superintendent.
Excellent.
And personnel, not a lot of movement since our last meeting 3 weeks ago. So we've just had one new hire, Taylor Mayu as an ESP in grade 5 inclusion. And with that, I think we're ready to bring up Kelsey Kincaid, our athletic director, who's going to give a kind of a fall winter sports overview. Kelsey, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Got a new microphone.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes. That is
All
such
right.
a great team picture. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we're not there yet. There we are. All right, we're ready to go.
All right, so wanted to go over just a recap of our fall sports and the kickoff of winter. So to start, just our final team records for this fall, we had golf with 4 and 9, football with 5 and 6, boys soccer with 6, 10 and 2, girls soccer 6, 10 and 1, volleyball 20 and 3, field hockey 8 and 9, girls cross country 0 and 7, and boys cross country 6 and 1. For team and individual accomplishments, our girls volleyball team made it to the Elite 8 in the MIA state tournament and then fell to Rockland in an amazing 5-set matchup, which was great. Field hockey qualified for the state tournament, which was a huge accomplishment for the program, but they lost to Seekonk in the first round of 32. Our boys cross country team qualified for states and placed 17th in all of Division 3. Hazel Butterworth, part of our girls cross country team, qualified for states as well and placed 13th. And then our football team beat Middleborough on Thanksgiving for the first time since 2017.
And a nice comeback win. They were
Great
down.
comeback win. Down 6 to 21 at
yeah,
half
down a
and
couple
won
touchdowns.
22 to 21.
See, never give up.
Some South Shore League accomplishments. Our volleyball and boys cross country team were the South Shore League Tobin Division champions. Hazel Butterworth got Player of the Year for girls cross country in the Tobin Division. And then our boys cross country placed second overall at the South Shore League meet, which is including the Sullivan and Tobin schools.
And Hazel is just in the 8th grade? 7th grade?
7th grade.
See, Hazel's just in the 7th grade, and she was the
Yes.
she was the cross country player of the year for the league against all high school kids.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Really big accomplishment for
So
her.
great things coming from Hazel, I'm sure.
And then all of our South Shore League All-Stars for all sports this fall. We have a good number of them. So for golf, Kellen Cutting. Boys cross country, Luke Maloney and Nathaniel Tyler. Girls cross country, Hazel Butterworth. Field hockey, Sierra Mulready, Brooklyn Benting, and Grace Keneally. Boys soccer, Ryan LaBelle. Volleyball, Maeve Zakarewski, Riley Jenkins, Grace Highland, and Josie Helms. Girls soccer, Alexa Ryan and Haley Alsheimer. Cheer, Taryn Barkowski. And football, Nate Helms, Colin Akins, Cam LaRanger, and Nolan Keneally. Just some new athletic initiatives we have started already or in the works of starting. So our Crusader Athletic Times, we brought a couple meetings ago. Our first edition was out in October. Our third edition is going to be released next week for December. Crusader Sideline is a video interview broadcasting initiative that started in the fall with 2 students who are kind of interning for me. And we're hoping to get more going on in the winter with just mic up during practices, during games, bringing students in, going around asking questions throughout the hallways. So just getting more videos and for the athletic program. And then what we're starting up in the upcoming weeks is our alumni spotlight. So we're looking to feature an alumni a week with picture, having them answer questions, just connecting with them on how their experience was at Carver, how it's helped them at their collegiate level sport, or if they're currently playing, or if they already did play. So just connecting them back with our high school students here.
Excellent.
And then on to winter. So we are offering boys basketball, girls basketball, wrestling, track and field, winter cheer, co-op girls ice hockey, co-op boys ice hockey. And we have a total of 184 student athletes this winter. And then all of our schedules can be found on arbiterlive.com. We have our first scrimmages were today. We have our first wrestling meet on Thursday, track invitational on Saturday, and then everyone else starts up next week. So that's all I got.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
The banners in yet?
Banners are not in yet. We have ordered them, and now it's finding the time of when we want to take them down, put them up in a reasonable time frame. So
Yeah, we're actually, we have a meeting coming up sometime in the next week or two to have that discussion, because we have a sense of when the banners are going to be in. And then we'll make an announcement to the community of when they're going to go up and what kind of ceremony we're going to do around that. So we're in the planning stage for that, but that will happen during the school year.
Okay. Yeah, it's very exciting. Thank you for shining a spotlight on our athletic program.
of course.
Great.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And no one has
Thanks,
any
Kelsey.
questions, right? You're more than welcome to stay, but no pressure. Okay, so that brings us to the Governor's Statewide Graduation Council recommendations.
Yep, so we
Oh, I think I have that open over here.
share this out here.
Da-dum, da-dum. Here we go.
There we go. All right. So in January, the governor put together a council, and really to look at graduation requirements. And this council was really based upon the MCAS ballot initiative from a year ago, November, where the state of Massachusetts voted to, and we've talked about this a lot, voted to remove the MCAS exam as the demonstration of mastery. That whole concept of competency determination and demonstration of mastery. So they said, okay, and then this led into a large discussion of should there be a statewide standard for graduation requirements that are more than just maybe the MCAS exam. In comparison to other states, actually, Massachusetts has some of the least lowest number of actual requirements to graduate from high school. There's a lot of states that have imposed kind of statewide curriculum, statewide courses, portfolios, those types of things. And Massachusetts always, to our heritage and our history, has always been a huge believer in local control and allowing local school committees to make that determination of what the graduation requirements should be for their students. But they began to, I guess, look at that a little bit and say, should there be a little bit more extensive statewide standard? And so those two things kind of came together with the MCAS ballot initiative to lead the governor to establish this commission. The council was composed of a broad and diverse group of stakeholders, including educational leaders, legislators, union representatives, teachers, students, parents, higher ed officials, and members of the business and nonprofit communities. And they tried to hit everybody. The council has been meeting on a regular basis since January of 2025, throughout this year. And their original target was that by December 1st, they would release an interim report that included initial recommendations. And they met that target. So on December 1st, last week, the interim report was released. And this is this is their framework. This is their visual, but I liked it. I thought it was a good match. It's not showing very well up on that screen. Let's see if I make it a little bigger, if it does anything. Still doesn't look any better. Nope, still looks the same. I'm not being effective. That's okay. I think you can see it on your screens. I'm looking at it going, I can't read that real well. Maybe it's just my eyesight going. So they started with this concept of they wanted to have an overarching vision. So we want to establish a vision of a graduate for the state of Massachusetts. And I actually showed you that vision they came up with when we were doing our competency determination policy. It's in the slideshow here. We're going to come back to it. Then after they established this vision, they really said that we have to look at three things. What learning experiences students should have. How do students show mastery, which is a requirement of the state law, going back to that whole concept of competency determination, saying students have to demonstrate mastery in your content areas through grade 10. So that's still part of the law. So unless they change the law, there has to be a mastery component. And then they also said we need to look at college and career readiness. So these are the three buckets that they focused on. Learning expectations, how is mastery going to be demonstrated of the 10th grade frameworks, and college and career readiness. Then, after that, they said there's some foundational considerations we have to think about. We have to think about, is this equitable? So whatever we come up with, whatever we establish, are the resources going to be equitable for every community within the state of Massachusetts? Are there going to be different routes? Can students take a different path to meet the standard? And I think there's been a lot of discussion about that. There's a real value for that. That it shouldn't be one road, that this is the road you have to accomplish to meet the graduation standard. So they're going to look at different maybe pathways to allow people to do that. And then they said, you know what? Maybe the state doesn't do a good enough job of recognizing outstanding achievement. So we want to have some distinctions. We want to have some awards of merit, in essence, through the graduation process. So those are all of these things went into what becomes the initial recommendations we're going to see in a minute. Okay. So here was the statewide vision of the graduate, which was the start. This was the foundation, looking for students to be academically prepared, effective communicators, reasonable decision makers, creative problem solvers, self-aware navigators, and intentional collaborators. And this concept lines up very closely with the NEAS concept, is that every school should have a vision of a graduate or a portrait of a graduate. And this is a document, we've looked at the Carver High School vision of the graduate through the NEAS process. I've presented it here at school committee several times. And there is a lot of alignment between our current vision of the graduate and the statewide vision of the graduate. And I think we're going to be able to see that alignment over time. So, what were the recommendations? And this is the general overview, and I'll give you some more specific details about each piece of this. So foundations of learning, coursework. So they're making a recommendation that they're going to establish coursework that are going to be required in all high schools. That kind of exists right now. It's called the Mass Core. But the Mass Core is not a graduation requirement. Students don't have to meet the Mass Core to graduate from high school. So I think there's going to be a movement to, we're going to see the list in a couple minutes. The list is very consistent with the Mass Core, and I think there's going to be a movement to say, yeah, you're going to have to put this in all, everyone's going to have these list of courses in their graduation requirements, no matter what community you're in. Okay. The second part, that demonstration of mastery. This is the most controversial part of what their initial recommendations are. This is where the most discussion's happening. Is they said they're going to establish a hybrid assessment model to evaluate this demonstration of mastery. The first one is students will participate in end-of-the-course assessments that are connected to selected courses that are designed, administered, and scored by the state. And that's the one that's most controversial for people, because people's initial reaction is, did we already have that? They call that the MCAS exam. And didn't we vote just to not do that anymore? But you're going to see through the presentation that it's really not the MCAS. And what I always get ahead of myself in my own presentations. This is on a slide later on, so we'll see it. They've been very clear and intentional of saying that no student will not receive their high school diploma because they don't pass an end-of-the-course assessment. And they haven't really navigated what that's going to look like exactly, and we'll get into that more when we get to the slide on this. But I wanted to say it now and then repeat that. So I've gone to a couple presentations on this since this has been released. Desi actually held a forum last week, and MASC held a forum. MASS, Mass Association of School Superintendents, and just very clear and intentional saying that there will be no student who doesn't graduate because they fail one of the end of the course assessments. So it's not exactly like the MCAS exam. And then the second part is they're going to ask students to complete either a capstone or a portfolio project. And schools are going to have the choice about whether they establish a senior capstone or a portfolio that's over their high school career that would demonstrate mastery in specific course areas. Last piece is they want to have students prepared for a college and career. I don't actually have a lot about this well, I guess I have some of this in the future presentation. They want everybody to have a MyCap, which is an academic plan for their future. We actually do MyCaps right now for all of our students. We're already meeting this requirement. I think this one's interesting. They want all students to complete a FAFSA or a MASFA. They're going to give an opt-out for that because obviously you'd only complete the FAFSA or the MASFA if you're going to college because that's your financial aid piece. But I think by saying all students have to complete a FAFSA, they're encouraging that students pursue some sort of post-secondary education. And then they have a little caveat of you can opt out. So there's probably going to have to be a process where we establish, where we're going to have to document that students completed the FAFSA or opted out of it as part of a graduation requirement. They want all students to have a financial literacy course, which is going to be in the Foundations of Learning also. And then they're going to identify these seals of distinction, recognizing students' outstanding performance. And I have the list of the seals they're recommending in the presentation. So that was the overview. Here's some of the more in-depth information. So what's the coursework they're going to require? 4 years of English, which we already require, 4 years of math, which we already require here in Carver, 3 years of history, 3 years of a lab-based science. So the first 4 are all things we already require in Carver. 2 years of a world language. So currently we do not require all students to take 2 years of a world language. The majority of students do. I don't want to throw a number out besides saying a large majority. There are very few students who don't take 2 languages. 2 years of a language, not 2 languages. That would be impressive if they were taking 2 languages. 2 years of a language, but I think this may become a requirement. Okay. 1 year of different arts courses, which we already have that requirement. Personal finance, which we don't. Now, notice here they don't say a full year of personal finance. I think they're saying that. I think they're going to say that. My sense is they're going to say that can be a semester course. It can be a half-year course in personal finance. So that would be a new requirement for us here in Carver. A civics course, and this is going to be, I'm interested in this one because we now require all students to take 8th grade physics. I'm struggling with words tonight, I apologize. We now require all students to take 8th grade civics, right? And now are they going to add another civics course in high school? Is that 8th grade course going to meet the requirement? That's a question mark without definition right now. Notice it doesn't say 1 year of civics. They're just saying some sort of a civics course. So it'll be interesting to hear how they flesh that out because they haven't yet, to say whether that would be 8th grade course counts or would have to be a new course in high school that maybe is a semester like personal finance. And health and physical education, which we currently offer. So the additions for us, like say this was adopted and put out by DESE and said everyone has to have these old graduation requirements. The additions for us in Carver would be making 2 years of a foreign language requirement, and then adding a personal finance course, and then the civics is a question mark. So it wouldn't be major changes for what we already currently do. End of the course assessments. Will be administered at the conclusion of specific high school courses, which they have not yet identified. So the interim report doesn't say what those courses are. The general sense is that it will be Algebra 1, Geometry, which are your MCAS subjects, probably your 10th grade English class, maybe not both 9th and 10th grade English, but probably your 10th grade English class. Because this all goes back to meeting the state law of recognizing mastery in your through grade 10 curriculum. I'm sure there's going to be a science course. Might be similar to how it is now, where it's you get to choose which one you want to do. I don't know if they'll keep 4 because that's a lot of testing. And the reality is most of the students in the state took biology. Some took physics, we took physics. Very small number of students took science and engineering or chemistry. It was an MCAS option, but not an option many schools chose. I think like we might have a student who came in from out of state who was a junior who was in chemistry, and we'd have them take the chemistry MCAS. That happened like 1 or 2 times. Almost always it was physics, intro to physics for us. So right now it's saying the council is going to explore what the courses are going to be. There's no definitive answer on that yet. That will be in their final report in June. And this is the interesting part. Again, the bottom bullet, clear statement that no student would fail to graduate because they did not pass one of these courses assessments. And they're going to talk about how it's going to be weighted. So they haven't answered this question yet of if you don't have to pass them, right? What do they count for then? Mm-hmm. And there's been some discussion of would they actually count as part of your grade in your high school course? But that's an interesting thing because not everyone gives final exams. Some schools don't have final exams, but this may require a final exam. And then if the state's going to score it, they wouldn't take this in the week of finals. You know, so this assessment would have to be given in April or May. And I think May is probably the latest you could do to have them turn around and score it if it's going to count as part of your grade. Is it going to be part of a matrix that, you know, you have to take 4 of these and pass 2 and do your portfolio? I don't know. So this is really an unclear answer on how they're going to implement these end of the course assessments. The other thing they've been very clear about, so both meetings I attended, they stated this several times, the 10th grade MCAS would fade out. So no student would take a high school MCAS exam and an end of the year course assessment. So once these end of the year assessments are in place, the MCAS will be gone at the high school level and will be removed. Still have to take MCAS in grades 3 through 8 because that's part of the federal requirement in terms of measuring students' progress. Here I just give you a definition of what a capstone and a portfolio is. Capstone is a cumulative project often completed in 12th grade that demonstrates interdisciplinary knowledge, usually includes some research, a written assignment, and some sort of presentation to the community. A portfolio would be a collection of students' best work that demonstrates mastery in the content areas. And right now they're saying that schools aren't going to have to do both. You're not going to have both a capstone or a portfolio, and a portfolio you can choose. And you can make the decision of how you're going to do this. Again, a lot more than what they said on these, my next slide, said that DESE would establish the standards for the capstones and the portfolios, but they would be locally scored. So they would establish this is what a good capstone looks like, this is what a good portfolio looks like, but it would be locally scored. And then what would make sense is that your capstone or your portfolio would tie back to your vision of the graduate. So there's been some real discussion around that the vision of the graduate established by the school, that the capstone or portfolio would be connected to it. And then these are the seals of distinction that they're proposing at this time. The only one that exists right now is the seal of biliteracy, the third one down. So they'd like to add an academic or honors seal based on a high GPA plus completing AP or IB courses or dual enrollment or early college. So they're going to say, okay, you're going to have to take so many advanced courses plus have a certain GPA, and then you'll earn this academic seal of honor, which would actually go on your diploma and on your transcript. A career and technical seal for finishing a pathway. So the state would actually start to recognize through the diploma and on the transcript for pathway completion, and that would definitely tie into our pathways. The seal of biliteracy, demonstrating proficiency in English and another language. Seal of digital literacy, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of technology and digital tools and responsible use. And a seal of civic engagement, demonstrated knowledge of civics through coursework, community service, and or passing an assessment. So those are the seals they've identified at this time. So this is actually a lot of stuff, if you really think about it. So, you know, what's the timeline for this? So that's been the questions the questions have been, what's the financial resources? So is the state going to provide any kind of financial resources to make this transition? And then the second part is, what's the timeline? When do you actually have to begin to implement this? So the Graduation Council aims to release its final requirements and final recommendations in June. So my thought is that we'll have a presentation about them in August or September. In that final recommendation, they're saying they're going to have a timeline for implementation. It certainly would not be for next year, so there's going to be no expectation that the graduating class of 2027 is going to meet this requirements. And they've been very clear that some of this might require legislation. So, you know, think about the legislative process. If some of these requirements require legislation, it might be a year or two before the legislation passes. So I would be very surprised. I'm not gonna go too far on a limb. Confident that they're not going to say 27, I'd be surprised if they said 28. I think you're really looking at maybe a 2029 implementation, maybe a 2030 implementation, maybe 2029, because they have to develop these end-of-course assessments. They have to select the courses. They probably have to do some trials of them. So they're gonna do some testing of them. They're gonna establish the portfolios. I mean, to say a student has to complete a portfolio that they're gonna start in 9th grade or 10th grade, you gotta have a couple of years of implementation for that. You can't just say your seniors, next year's graduating class has to have a portfolio, or even a capstone project. It's gonna take school districts a year and a half to really develop, plan, get ready for like a meaningful capstone type of project or meaningful portfolio. So I think we're a couple of years away from implementation. Hopefully they don't surprise us, because the last couple of years, it has been a couple of things that have been like, okay, get this done in the next couple of months.
Yep.
But I don't, look at the scope of this. I don't think it's realistic that they'd be able to say, get this done by the class, maybe even the class of 28, certainly not the class of 27, if this comes out in June of 26. So we'll see where that all goes. And I think we'll see what happens with the end of the course assessments. I think there's a lot of support for the overall initial recommendations. So when you go back to this list, I think the thing that's had the most question is these end of the course assessments. And what they're going to factor in and what it's going to look like, especially since they feel like that's going against the will of the people. That's the argument, that the will of the people just voted and said we don't want it at the MCAS exam anymore, but now it seems like they're promoting something that seems very similar. So we'll see where that conversation all goes. So that's the update. This has been in the news a lot. I thought it would make sense to have a presentation about it tonight, because there's been a lot of discussion on this over the last couple of weeks. Any questions for me at this time? Or thoughts?
Anyone have any questions? It is a lot to
continued.
Yeah, to be continued.
It is a lot to implement for sure, and hopefully they will. I can't imagine that there will be funding going along with this, so it would be nice to see.
Yeah, because obviously it'd be nice to see some funding, just because the reality is most school districts are going to have to add at least some curriculum and some coursework. You're going to have to add a financial literacy course. A lot of schools have a finance course, but very few have it as a graduation requirement, and you're going to have to expand that a little bit. Not every school meets the Mass Core in terms of foreign language, so that's something that I think might be a change for some schools. And then the portfolio and the capstone is just going to be, a good undertaking.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for the update. We appreciate it, and we'll see how the saga continues.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I believe that brings us, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Yes, that brings us to the health insurance update by Ron. Thank you, Ron.
Yep.
Folks. So you heard Tom allude to the conversation that the town's been having regarding our health insurance. Our town administrator, Mr. Cannon, did a brief presentation at the select board last week. And honestly, I just thought it'd be helpful for us here in the school department to just develop some baseline understanding of what it is, what's happening, what are some of the issues that are going on, what are the options available, what are the tools and levers that are available to Carver and our group, and then think about some next steps. As Tom alluded to, ultimately the general government town has the deciding authority on these issues, but they certainly affect the school department both in terms of our operational costs and just our employees, right? So I've got a memo here for you. I'm going to kind of organize this in little sections, but if at any point you want to drill down, you have some questions, just stop me and we'll spend some time kind of drilling down on it. Yeah?
Thank you.
I'll start with some background, and I guess again just say I appreciate that we have differing levels of comfort with how insurance is structured here in Carver. If you're expert in this already, I apologize. We'll be spending some extra time on it. But if you don't have a lot of understanding of how Carver sort of structures its health insurance, then this will be a good primer. So Carver, like most municipalities in the Commonwealth, are essentially self-insured. That means that when Ron goes to the doctor and I have a bill and I hand them my health insurance card, at the end of the day, the town of Carver pays for my visit. Right? Anytime an employee in Carver hands their health insurance card over, the taxpayers of Carver, through this sort of pot of premium that they collect, will pay for that visit. Yeah. That's pretty common for most municipalities in the Commonwealth. Carver's relatively small when you think about all the communities in the state. And so because it's small, it partners with some other communities to essentially spread out the liability of insurance costs. Yeah, the groups that we work with are Lakeville and Old Rochester, and we sort of manage health insurance costs together. We've come together, 20 years ago now, to form this nonprofit organization called the Gateway Group, and it's held together by a JPA, which is a joint purchasing agreement. It's essentially a contract that just says, hey, all three of us are going to make decisions in the best interest of the larger group, and we're going to abide by the decision in the majority, right? And so a lot of times our votes can be 2-1. Even if you're the dissenting voice, you're going to abide by the majority, yeah? A little bit about JPAs. So JPAs help both municipalities and regional schools spread out this liability because ultimately the end payer of these costs is the municipality. If you have a lot of costs all at once that are unanticipated, obviously that's a real budgetary challenge. By joining with some smaller groups together into a larger group, you can spread out that cost. So if Ron's going to the doctor a lot of times this year, but Scott's not, and we're both paying premiums, just like health insurance in general, his premium helps pay for my going to the doctor's visits. And the hope would be next year, if I'm not going very much and he is, my premium does the same thing. Now you extrapolate that across multiple communities, right? If Carver's claims are up, hopefully Old Rochester's and Lakeville's are down, and vice versa, right, in any given year. So that's how it's been working for a number of years. Gateway, because it's a group of municipalities and regional schools, we're good at running towns and schools, but we're not insurance experts. So they hire a consultant team. The team they use right now is called NFP. They helped found the group 20 years ago or so. That group provides technical experience, so they walk you through all the different rules and regulations when it comes to insurance. They help monitor your costs, and ultimately one of the most important things they do is they have an actuarial team who comes in each year and helps you determine how much we should be collecting for insurance premiums. Yeah, that part's super important because that process of determining what the premium is ultimately takes into account an estimate of how much they think all of the employees in all of the towns and regional schools are going to have to pay for insurance. They're also making an estimation of how much they think the employees will go to the doctor and how much those doctor's visits will all cost. Everything from I have a cold or my kid's got pneumonia to I broke my leg and have to go to the ER and everything in between, right? So that's expertise that we have the consultants for, that actuarial work. So that's the background. That's how it works each year. Each year they set a rate, a premium. All the employees pay that rate. The towns and organizations like the regional school there pays a rate as well. It goes into a pot of money. As each employee goes to the doctor, that pot of money is used to pay their claim. Yeah. Questions so far? That's like baseline. Okay. So what are the challenges? Why is Ron doing a presentation on this thing that just sort of like hums in the background? So as I'm sure you know, health insurance costs in general have been skyrocketing across the nation. Massachusetts is not only in that affected by that, but it's actually leading the charge. The costs in Massachusetts are actually outpacing the national costs for both health insurance and healthcare costs. We linked some interesting Globe article there that gives you some flavor for that. But that really sets the background for our conversation about the challenges that Carver and the Gateway Group in general are going to be facing when it comes to health insurance costs, right? NFP, again, that consultant group, started doing their initial FY27 projections for the Gateway Group, and this is really what began this conversation. Those projections are wildly higher than they have ever been. And so the alarm was sort of rung in all of these communities. Whoa, what's happening here? Yeah. So NFP did a presentation to the Gateway's board just a few days ago, and they outlined a couple of pressures. Each of these pressures have a little bit different effect on the total outcome, but ultimately these pressures are all working together in that landscape of increasing costs for healthcare in general. The first is, and this is probably one of the most important, is that right now, currently, FY26, your claims, it's called your claims experience, the number of claims and then the volume and cost of those claims are outpacing the premium being collected. And that's creating a deficit, right? So each year, Each employee pays a certain amount of money for their plan, depending on that plan, and the entity, Town of Carver, also pays a large portion of that as well, 75%, 25%. That amount of money is not sufficient to cover all of the claims that have been coming in now in FY26. That's creating a deficit. That's probably one of your biggest concerns sort of across the board, right? The second is that claims experience, that is the number of claims that are being filed and the amount of money each of those cost, is projecting to increase in 27, which is not typical. Usually you get like peaks and valleys, typical of almost every financial experience you have. This is just peak with no end in sight. Again, a bit of that is a reflection of the landscape in general, both at the national and the Commonwealth level, but it's certainly exacerbated at our little group and in Carver in particular. Yeah. And the third, while a smaller one, is an outlier in the data set. It's an increasing RX drug costs, in particular this category of drug called a GLP-1. The most popular version of those drugs is Ozempic. Just a couple of years ago, it wasn't even on the radar for an organization like Gateway. And this year and this past year and going into next year, the numbers have really skyrocketed there. Yeah. So while one drug in particular isn't the reason for the large increase that we're facing, it's certainly a contributing factor, right? We're early in that process. We're here in December, and they don't really set the rates until February, but to have such a significant initial number is something that we should start having a conversation about immediately. Yeah. So how does this impact Carver? In the Gateway Group, there's 3 entities. We're the largest of the 3. And so in terms of the number of employees and the number of plans in the entire pool, we represent more than half, which means more than half of the cost is being generated by the Carver employees, and therefore more than half of that total bill is Carver's to pay. That also means half of the deficit that is going to start growing would be Carver's to pay as well, right? The other part that's helpful to be aware of is that Carver has a 75-25 split. I alluded to that. The employer, Town of Carver, pays 75% of the health insurance premium. Regardless of what plan you pick, the town picks up 75% of that cost. Employee does the balance of it, which means any increase in rates or premiums increases the cost the Town of Carver has to pay for health insurance in general. Large increase there is a big increase in your bottom line when it comes to the operating budget for the town. Yeah. So there's some tools available to Gateway and to Carver. I'll walk you through these. They're not in a particular order necessarily, and I will say that as we go through them, it's likely that any combination of these isn't going to eliminate an increase in health insurance costs for next year, but the goal here would be to like ameliorate the significance, the spike there, right? But before I also go into that, I would say 2 other things. One, they're not mutually exclusive, and so these are tools that you could take in part. They could do all of them. They could do a part of one, all of another. They could choose to take no action. But they have those options in however they see fit ultimately to use them. Yeah. I guess the last thing I'd say before I go into them is none of them are ideal, right? These are not things you'd want to do. They're not leverage you want to pull in the first place. But some action will have to be taken at some point because it's a pretty substantial financial cost, and so you'd want to take some level of action. The first would be a mid-year rate increase, and so this would simply be adjusting up the total cost of your health insurance plans in all of the towns and communities to catch up on the revenue you need to pay for all those costs, right? What that number is, the actuaries would ultimately think that through. But that would mean both the employers and employees pay an additional increase in the premium to help catch up on what those claims are. The second would be a change in status in those GLP-1 drugs. That's an action that some of the larger healthcare organizations have been taking. If you've been sort of reading some of the news on this, the Blue Cross Blue Shields of the world, the Aetnas of the world, have been either modifying the way in which they cover those drugs. So for example, saying, hey, we'll cover it, but only if you have diabetes and not if you're using it for weight loss, for example. Or they've said, we're not covering them at all. And everything in between, right? Iterations thereof. Because Carver and these other 2 communities work together as an entity, they would have to decide as an entity what action, if any, they'd want to take on that. Any action they took on it would help reduce the total cost of the claims going forward, obviously. That would be a benefit financially for Gateway and those entities. It would be a disadvantage for any of those employees who are taking advantage of this drug right now, right? The last, and in my opinion, I think one of the most pressing would be to pay down this growing insurance claim deficit, yeah? So you've got to find a way to start paying this down here and stop it from growing. How they do that, they have lots of different options. And because you've got 2 municipalities and a regional school, like the financial mechanisms are going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to go high level, but feel free to stop me and ask me to drill down. Essentially, in some capacity, you'd have to use some kind of one-time funding. Typically, in a municipality, that'd be a stabilization fund of some kind. In a regional school, they have what's called E&D, it's excess and deficiency. But for simplicity's sake, let's just say it's a stabilization fund, although not exactly that. They'd have to use that in some capacity to pay that down so that you can catch up, give your rates time to catch up on the revenue side of it, yeah? That action can look a lot of different ways. It ultimately needs some decisions to be made by your select board and more likely than not, your town meeting in some capacity, your legislature in some capacity, right? Again, any combination of those would help the Gateway group sort of get back on track and sort of let both sides of their ledger match up, their revenue and their expenses match up. In general, they'd want to take some action sooner rather than later. The longer you take on this, the longer you've allowed your claims to outpace the premiums that you're charging people for insurance. Yeah? To date, no action's been taken yet. Right now, we're in that local engagement process. Carver just had an IAC meeting, which is your Insurance Advisory Committee. It's essentially a group of representatives from all of your labor teams, your unions. Had a conversation with our town administrator, Mr. Cannon, just this afternoon, kind of bring them up to speed again. We walked through a lot of this same stuff here, got feedback and input from all of the employees who are ultimately affected by this, and many of whom are also citizens and taxpayers in town as well. The last thing I would just say, is that final bullet. It's important again to notice that this is a collective action work. So that's challenging when tough decisions like this have to be made because A, no one likes to make tough decisions, and B, every community, and in this case regional school, are a little bit different. So what might fit really well in Carver might not fit as well in Lakeville or in Old Rochester necessarily. And it's important to know that we would have to abide, all the groups would have to abide by the majority decision. Most recent example, actually, you may recall a couple of years back, Gateway moved from Blue Cross Blue Shield as the administrator, right? Not as insurance, but as the administrator of your insurance to HPI as a cost-saving measure, right? To sort of bring down the rate cost. Carver ultimately voted against it. We were the dissenting voice in that, but on a 2-to-1 vote, we move along with Gateway as a group. So that is entirely possible. In my point in saying that is that can happen as well with some of these actions too, right? There may be some dissenting voices, but the majority will take the day, sort of move the group forward, yeah? Hey, what are our next steps? So a couple of them, as I just mentioned, Insurance Advisory Committee, that just happened this afternoon, got input from a lot of our employee groups, which was really helpful. There'll be a select board meeting on the 16th, again, to get some direction from the board as well, which is going to be important. And then the Gateway board will convene on the 17th. They'll discuss all the input from the communities and the regional school, talk about next steps, and potentially vote on either some or all of those actions that I talked about there. In the end, sort of where do we stand as a school department? 2 things. One, we're the largest employer in your town typically, and so we have the largest number of employees who are impacted by all of these conversations, both in terms of what your rate is and what the drugs are that are covered and all of those things. And the second is, this is a big portion of the overall operating cost for the town of Carver in general. Insurance always is for all municipalities. And so the decisions that will ultimately be made here will impact not only the employees, but the taxpayers when it's all said and done. So they're big decisions, challenging moment in time when you think about insurance. But I thought it'd be helpful to just take a second, sort of walk it through in a logical way, and I can field any questions or try to field any questions you have about it.
Anyone have any questions?
Who's the administrator now?
The town administrator?
No, the plan administrator?
It's called HPI, and they're an arm of Harvard Pilgrim. They're a subsidiary of Harvard Pilgrim.
Okay. So if we were to renegotiate a mid-year rate increase, we would have to go back to the union, correct?
That was actually part of the conversation today at the table with the unions collectively. That's, I think, a decision that's still out to be determined.
Okay.
I don't think any finality was sort of stated there with the group, if I represent that conversation effectively today. Yeah.
I remember several years ago, the town meeting voted to change the 75%, I think, to 50%. And then we
No.
voted to change it back.
That was just for retirees. Talking about just for retirees?
Yes, that was
was-
for,
okay.
that was for retirees only.
Okay.
And the town had negotiated with some of their unions to go to 50/50. And what they did was 50/50 for all new employees. And so then they had a bifurcated system where some employees on the town side were 75/25 and some employees on the town side were 50/50. But I believe all those have actually been renegotiated back out through the negotiation process. The town meeting only voted on the retiree health insurance. They
Okay.
did a home rule petition that said that in 2025, retiree health insurance was supposed to go to 50/50. And they voted that back in 2015.
Right, we reversed it.
And then and they had 10 years to plan for implementation. And then when 2025 came, people said, we don't want that to happen.
Right.
And so then the town meeting voted or authorized to move forward and not do that, so that the retirees would stay 75/25.
But would that have affected the retired teachers?
Yes, that would have affected all retired employees.
Without, okay.
But not-
independent
not-
negotiation with the.
It wasn't, so I guess this is not my area of expertise,
Okay,
right?
it's
But
kinda getting in the weeds
my,
anyway.
my understanding of this is that retiree health insurance, the town can change unilaterally the proportion. They don't have to, that's not a negotiation process because they're retired, they're no longer members of a union.
It's a completely different budget.
Yeah,
isn't it?
so, well, and it's also just a different,
not.
it's a different.
It's the same one.
It's the same budget, but it's a different mechanism.
Right.
So, since they're no longer unionized employees because they're retired, the town actually just has the authority to do that. So what happened was, the town in 2015, this is my memory of the situation, was the select board was gonna vote unilaterally to change it to 50/50 in 2015. And the unions, the PEC came together and basically, this is unfair. There was a lot of community outrage of this is unfair to how these people have no notice. You're just gonna take out retirees and change their health insurance from 75/25 to 50/50. So they actually entered into a negotiation and came to an agreement, which the retirees agreed to actually, saying, we'll put this off for 10 years. And they did a home rule petition that went to the state legislature that approved that in 10 years, 2025, the retirement split would change. And in essence, the idea was, okay, now retired, you have 10 years to plan for this. So it's not a sudden thing, it's not coming out of nowhere. You have 10 years to prepare yourself for this. When the time came to make that change, there was still a lot of opposition. And there was also a fear that there were people there was actually going to lead to a lot of people in town to retire because they were going to get out before 2025 so that they could keep the 75/50 healthcare split because there's a benefit for that. So that was going to cause some people to leave and might lead to a large excess of some of the workforce in all town departments, including the school. There were definitely teachers who were talking about that. There were teachers saying, I'm going to retire early because I'm going to get out while it's still 75/25 versus 50/50. So I think that's a pretty accurate summary of where we stand on that issue. Where any other rate change has to be negotiated through, the town can't unilaterally, the school committee can't unilaterally make a decision to say, okay, we're going to make it 50/50. That's 100% open to negotiations. But they can do that with retirees because they're not members of a union.
Gotcha. Okay. So this gateway group, even though we represent more than half,
You still only get one vote.
we still only get one vote.
It's not a proportional vote, so.
It's like the Senate, not the House.
Right. So, yeah.
One vote, one
was
state.
was it previously a bigger group or?
It was.
Yeah, so it's been around for 20 years or so. It's gone up and down. And this is a low point in terms of the number of entities that are part of the group right now. Yeah.
Because I voted against that.
Yeah, I would say Carver, and I've not been here for the 20 years for it, but I believe Carver's been one of the largest for most of its history.
Yeah.
And my general belief is that a previous town administrator here in Carver ultimately helped found the group, again, 2 decades ago.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess last thing I would just say, I want to recognize like this is a difficult moment for sure. I will say JPAs in general are good, right? This idea that I think sometimes maybe unfairly shoot strays at the JPAs in general. It's essentially just small groups of communities getting together for better buying power. That's really what you're doing. JPAs exist for health insurance. They exist for buying paper too, right? Like it's just you're buying a thing in larger bulk, and that's usually beneficial to you.
And I guess the only other point I'd make is that, some of these decisions are going to be made quickly, outline the timeline.
Yep.
They could be made before the holiday break. So obviously if there was a vote for mid-year rate increase, we'd have to spend some time over the break notifying people of that, because I think the plan would be, obviously the committee's going to vote, the Gateway Group's going to vote, and maybe they decide January 1st isn't realistic. So it wouldn't shock me if they do vote some sort of rate increase, that they would say February for implementation. That gives a little more time to notify people. Obviously we've notified all the union leadership, but I still don't know, probably the reason why it's on the agenda tonight, so I still don't know how widespread do all the employees know. So I don't know how much the union is communicating with them to say, hey, this is something that could happen very fast.
Yeah.
So
It could
it's
happen
ultimately
quickly.
the Gateway Group that's going to make that decision?
Yes, the Gateway Group made that decision. And Carver has one vote, and the town administrator is our voting member. Now, obviously, he's going to talk about this with the select board and get some direction from the select board in terms of making decisions around this, in terms of how he's going to vote. So he's going to get their input, and that's part of this meeting on the December 16th, is to get that input from them on which one of these three options, if all or any, we would support.
Right.
You've already had your questions answered and been in meetings already with this too.
I sit I'm the sort of backup for the select board, for the town administrator, so I'm in all the meetings as well. And I guess the last thing I would just say in general, I think every entity in the Gateway Group is just trying to balance like what's good for their employees, what's good for their taxpayers, what's good for their organizations, and try to find some middle ground that meets this need, this moment in time, without harming any one group dramatically, right? That's the big challenge I think they're facing.
Yeah, it's absolutely a major concern for our entire community.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to please pay attention to what's going to happen with this moving forward, as it will affect our entire community. I don't think anyone's going to be unscathed from whatever the decision ends up being. It's going to be harmful, but I appreciate your being on that committee as a backup, and both of you for bringing this information to our attention so that we're aware of it. It's unfortunate, but sometimes you have to deal with hard things. So thank you for the information.
We'll keep you posted as more information comes along as well, for sure.
There it goes, so thank you very much.
Good.
Yeah, we can definitely do an update on this in the January meeting, because I think in the January meeting we'll have some more information of what direction this is going in.
Yeah, that would be great. I think it's important for us to make sure that our piece of the community is aware. Okay, so after that somber news, that brings us to upcoming events.
Upcoming events, which and I guess I'll defer to the committee on whether we maintain this as an item on future agendas. I just want to mention that, because we've kind of gone to a moment
Visit
of
our website.
Yeah, visit our website. We used to put up a physical list. I don't know how beneficial that was, because we used to actually share with the local papers, and obviously the mechanism has changed. So I don't know if it's just a regular reminder of, or if this district sends out a regular reminder of, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on, and drive people to the website, because it's all on the website, it's all on the calendar, and you can get news and updates. Like one of the top items here is the blood drive that's happening this Thursday. So all the information's here. You can click on the calendar. The calendar will take you to everything that's happening on every day. So it's all there, and we just want to drive people to the website. So I guess I'll ask the committee's opinion on whether we want to keep this as an agenda item. Would you rather have me bring back the list that we look at as a committee? Is that a better way? I'm open to your input on this topic.
Anyone have any feedback? I think it's the expansion of our website and our social media presence, I think is really pushing information out. And plus the newsletters that are done at both buildings, really put information in the hands of.
And the weekly
people
update
within
that
the
goes
school
out
community.
with, through,
Yeah, there's
Which is helpful.
there's a lot which is
yeah,
helpful.
we get the,
Like, I understand that. What does everyone else think? I mean,
we're happy to bring all this to each
But,
meeting and talk about it a little bit. Whichever people want to do.
yeah.
I just didn't know if it was becoming a necessary item on the agenda on every,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
every meeting.
Yeah, like tomorrow, it's kind of cool. There's a science experiment happening
Well,
tomorrow.
right, I
from
mean,
10 to
just the fact
10:45.
that we're discussing it, I don't know. It
Is it
feels like,
having an
it
impact?
feels like it should, right? But I don't know that there is an impact being had. I do get the emails every week. I see the podcast thing on my
Yeah.
TikTok algorithm. And,
She's
so
like,
I'm,
yeah,
I'm fully up to speed on that.
she is excited about that, that you're on her TikTok
I know, look,
algorithm.
it hasn't come across my TikTok yet. I'll have to work on that.
Yeah,
No,
pops up every week.
my Instagram, but not my TikTok.
So I'm up to speed, and I don't
Yeah.
know that us talking about it helps anybody else get up to speed, but it just kind of feels like discussing what's happening over the next couple of weeks seems kind of natural for us to do.
I feel it's natural too, just
Okay.
having it on here.
And then do you want me to bring back the list or just have this discussion?
Making, I guess if there's something, I don't know, like, yeah, I think the blood drive could use a shout out.
Totally.
So I think if we just encourage people to visit it, and then if there's something, the concerts are coming up, there's a lot of great stuff that's coming up. I was actually smiling at the Culinary Creations Club at Carver Elementary School, like how adorable are they?
We had the Winter Wonderland last weekend and that went really well.
Yeah, so.
There's no school on Friday.
And there's no school, and there's no school on Friday.
Well,
It's a professional development day. And we have the high school concert tomorrow, the elementary concert on the 10th. We have the middle school concert, I believe, is on the 16th. So, there's
There's a lot going on. And winter sports are about to start up, so I know there was just is there another play coming up?
there is, but
Spring?
not, it's in the next month.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
I think that's scheduled for April, but I don't want to speak out of turn.
yeah.
So maybe just a quick, hey, this is what's coming up, sort of thing without the list.
All right, so
Yeah.
we'll do a modified list update next
Yeah.
thing, have things happening between the meetings. So these are the
I think it would be great.
these are the big events that happen between the
Yeah.
meetings.
And like I see there's a coat drive, like if there's a coat drive or a food drive or some type of a collection taking place, I think it would be great for us to spotlight that and highlight that, hopefully drive some donations their way.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll put a modified list together for cover what's happening between meetings.
You see the 5th grade creation club, the Culinary Creation Club, 5th grade?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's a lot of exciting things going on.
Yeah.
That's why I put it on the agenda.
That's why it's great to visit the website on a regular basis, because there's always something new.
It is.
Gina
It's true.
always sneaks something new in there.
All right,
which
so
is awesome, it's
we'll,
great.
We'll keep this item and Gina and I will work on a modified list of highlighting the big events coming between meetings.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so that takes us to
Back
recommendations from the superintendent.
back to Ron
Back
for
to Ron.
only one tonight, which is our financial update and budget transfers.
Great. Folks? Yeah, please. Yep.
Excuse me.
I think it's the other one.
Oh, I pulled on. Oh, we have the wrong link again? We do. Wrong link for, can you change the link on the financial update?
I just can.
It's the health insurance update.
Oh, it is.
We just did that one. You don't want to do that one.
We don't go through that again, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that again so soon.
Well, I'll get started. She's pulling that up, and the
Okay.
first couple are just news items anyway when it comes to education finance. So out of Washington, some news out of Washington, which you may or may not have already read about. The federal government is making some pretty substantial changes to the Department of Education when it comes to educational funding. They've essentially moved over what's called the ESSA set of funding. So those are your title funds, Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, and so on, are moving over to the Department of Labor. We've done some homework on it already. I've linked there for you the executive orders as well as a notice that we received from the Federal Department of Education. They also included a fact sheet that sort of walks state entities and schools through what this change is. Right now, it really looks like it's just a structural change. Part of the notice that went out to all states sort of quotes it here, quote, "There is no anticipated adverse impacts on eligible entities," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the feds have been pretty clear to say, like, we're not here to harm your financial stream when it comes to the federal funding. And according to our, we do monthly reconciliations of every dollar coming in and out of your school department. There's been no changes from the feds at that side of things. I will say a caveat to that is that your federal funding, true of all school communities in all states, is actually a year in arrears. So the money that's actually the physical dollars that have arrived already are last year's dollars already appropriated at the federal level and like sent to the bank at the state level, right? So unlikely that there would be an impact because that money is sort of out the door from the Fed's perspective. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. I may have to come back to this in a year and we'll like rethink it. But that's where we stand right now. I would say your impact in Carver is 0 at this point. Beacon Hill, you've got an issued set of joint statements from all of the educational leaders in the Commonwealth, your Secretary of Education, Early Education, Higher Education Commissioner, and so on. You can read them yourself, but the theme there is, expressing some real serious concerns about this restructuring of the Department of Education. I will say special education not involved in that structure. So IDEA is the set of laws, if you will, passed in like 1972, sort of organizes the federal funding and the rules around special education at the federal level. And that is not being moved from the Department of Education to the Department of Labor, at least at this time. So that's where we stand on actions at the federal and state level. Oh, quick little note here on Beacon Hill. So the Massachusetts Taxpayers Foundation, MTF, they're this like nonpartisan group that just does regular analyses of all things state money. They're actually really wonderful. If you're a nerd for the money, they're really wonderful. And they did this really interesting analysis and executive summary on the Student Opportunity Act. So this is that component of Chapter 70 that a few years ago sort of changes the way in which resources are being allocated, gives this shot in the arm of resources for education, but really focuses that on communities that are growing in enrollment. And so anyway, so this organization did this really interesting deep dive. I won't bore you with it all, but I just wanted to maybe highlight a couple of items that are helpful to think about, especially when it comes to Carver. First is that their key takeaway is really consistent with what we've been talking about here in Carver for the past few years, that while you've got this really wonderful shot in the arm in terms of resources in the Commonwealth for education, it's predominantly focused on communities that have a growing enrollment population of low-income kiddos who are learning English, kiddos with high needs, right? And there's this interesting little set of the data that I talk about at the very end here. What the group does, they say, hey, look, we looked at all 351 communities in the Commonwealth, and we broke them up into deciles, so 1 through 10. They found that communities, districts in the 9th and 10th decile are getting the vast majority of the resources, and that this very small sliver of the SOA, Student Opportunity Act resources, then gets dispersed, sprinkled through communities in 1 through 8, and Carver's in 5. So this gives you, again, reiteration of the sense that, like, yes, SOA is wonderful. It's not giving a whole lot for communities like Carver, and there's about 2/3 of all communities that sort of are in that similar bucket, that are not in that 9th and 10th decile, receiving a very small portion of the total SOA money. So I thought that was interesting. If you want to get to sleep tonight, give it a read. It's all FY26 grant awards, none at this time, and we do have your Q2 warrants. We're not completely done with Q2. We've got a few more weeks to go. Maybe got a couple of payroll and expense warrants. You'll note that December payroll there also reflects your stipends for things like athletics and so on, which is why it's not the same price as the others. And if it pleases the committee, I just ask for your vote to authorize that.
Okay.
Sorry. I move to approve the fiscal year 26 warrants as presented.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, I was looking at the budget transfers.
That's okay.
I also have your budget transfers. Again, a little bit early. We typically do them at the end of the quarter, but with the holidays and the schedule here, I thought I'd get them out of the way for you. As always, you've got your budget down to the penny. If you roll down to the bottom of that file, you'll see your total appropriation. Again, just a reminder, because I know there's been like in the news lately, like conversations about school districts and budgets. You should know that our team does regular reconciliation of your budget every month, down to the penny in every account. And you may remember at the beginning of the year, actually, we did our early reconciliations and we actually flagged some projections through the end of the year. And so like, hey, we're starting the year with some higher than typical projections. And so what we did was we brought the leadership team together early in the year and said, listen, the early projections, we tend to be pretty conservative in our financial approach to almost everything out of our office. So we said it's not terrible, but we just want to like be cautious. We put a pause on any non-essential funding starting in Q1. We're here in Q2. I'm happy to report to you that your expenses are leveling off, which is what we expected. We're going to keep that pause in place though through at least the end of financial Q3. The rationale there is maybe threefold. One, it's still just really conservative, and you'll kind of get that theme from us in general. We tend to be pretty conservative in our financial planning. Two, Q3 is really helpful to get a sense of what your expenses will look like. You get through the winter, which is unexpected expenses, both in terms of utilities and oftentimes equipment and so on, breaking down right to handle that. And three, you get a better sense of what your next fiscal year will look like. And especially in light of the conversation we just had about health insurance, we think that's going to be prudent to do as well. So you're in good shape here in Q2. We'll keep that pause on all non-essential spending through Q3, just to be on the safe side and to be conservative. If you look at your transfers, you don't have a ton of them here. There's not a lot of super high interest items. I'll give you a couple to highlight, but certainly answer any questions you've got. Your top line there, you've got special education out of district. It's just a tuition shift from collaborative to private. That happens this time of year in terms of kiddo placement. You'll notice that you've got some maintenance costs there as well. We project out to the end of the year. Once we get to the second quarter, so you're sort of almost halfway through the year, we project out based on the burn rate for the first half of the year, obviously. I guess the last one's sort of interesting. So Unified Sports is there on row 7. What you see there is a pretty short, balanced delta there, but we've actually transferred more than that. That's a new account for us. And so we're just trying to find ways to make sure we're taking a deep look at all of our spending. We hadn't had an account prior years to take a look at our Unified Sports Aids and how much we spend on that program. It's an amazing program that supports kiddos. We just want to find a way to make sure we can think proactively about the resource that we're allocating to it. So because it's a new account for this year, you see a budget transfer to essentially give them a budget to work with for FY26. Otherwise, net zero transfers as always, and if it pleases the board, we just ask a vote for your approval.
All right, I move to approve the fiscal year 26 budget transfers.
A second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Oh,
I just,
questions?
Ron, the 52,000 for electricity, that just seems really high for higher than expected use. Is there something like specific going on?
There isn't actually. That's just an account adjustment, and so we over budgeted for one of the schools and under budgeted for the other. Okay. And so that adjusts it to the correct school.
Okay.
We get the bills all in one, and so that's just a budgeting. It's just a transfer of the budget.
Cool.
Good news.
Yeah. That's no concern on that one. You're okay.
Like somebody, growing.
No one's leaving. No one's leaving the lights on. No.
Are they mining for Bitcoin?
No, I wish.
Right.
So
So a motion to approve those.
please.
We had a motion. Sorry. We had a motion. There was discussion. Is there any further discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, as
Thank you.
always, for that detailed presentation. The accounting nerd in me loves those little links so I can go in and read. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, so that brings us to reports from the school committee. And I am going to address the open meeting law complaint that was made by Peter Allegrini on November 13th, 2025. The complaint was made against the Carver School Committee and Stephanie Clarity as chair. Alleged data violation was November 5th. It states that a school committee meeting was posted on 11/2/2025 for the purpose of entering into executive session. The purpose of reviewing and determining release of executive session minutes. The posted agenda does not specify what executive session minutes were to be discussed. The agenda lacks information on the subject of the executive session and meeting minutes to be discussed, no dates, no topics, no names. So in response to this open meeting law complaint, which we reviewed, there was a letter that was sent to Mr. Allegrini on in December. Was I believe December 1st or December 2nd. And I just want to read what that letter stated. Dear Mr. Allegrini, the Carver School Committee reviewed your open meeting law complaint and closed on November 24th, 2025. The committee voted 5-0 that it was not in compliance with open meeting law. At its meeting on December 8th, 2025, the committee will publicly acknowledge non-compliance with open meeting law. The school committee will republish the referenced agenda with the appropriate information on the school committee website and share it with the town clerk. And finally, the school committee chair will provide open meeting law training materials for all new members to review. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Stephanie Clardy, Chair, Carver School Committee. So the updated agenda was posted. It is there on our website. You can view it if you choose to, and it specifically states the meeting date of the minutes that we were going to review. And moving forward this evening, as we did when we were voting for a session for minutes, we voted not to release the executive session minutes from November 24th, 2025. So as we have executive sessions come up, that is how we were going to handle approving those executive session minutes to make sure that we stay up to date and that we are as transparent with the public as possible. I did email the training materials from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees and Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents conference in November to every member of the school committee for their review. And so everyone can be updated on the recent changes so we can make sure that we're incorporating those into how we perform our roles as school committee members. So that is the address of the open meeting law complaint that we received. I will quickly say that our next meeting date is on January 12th, 2025. There will be a lot happening between now and then. I guess since I started speaking, I'll just speak, and then whoever else wants to speak can. I will just say to everyone, please take time to enjoy the holidays with your friends and your family. I know we're all busy. Every weekend is booked for me. I know through I think mid-February at this point, but it's important to find those moments to just take a pause and smell the roses or maybe the snowflakes. If we should have some soon. And I want to wish everyone a safe, healthy, and happy New Year. And good luck to all of our students who are starting competition for athletics next week. And good luck to everyone in all the band and chorus concerts that are coming up. And again, please don't pass those school buses. Put a song on and just dance like a fool like I do in your car and just don't pass them. Did anyone have anything they would like to add?
I'll just echo those sentiments.
You dance in your car when you get stuck behind a school
Except for
bus?
that one.
I was just
I'm
gonna
gonna
say,
stop for school buses.
have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, all of the holiday cheer.
Yes, right?
Kwanzaa,
Yes. Diwali.
Diwali, all of them, New
Yes.
Year's, everything.
Right, yeah, absolutely. People, I'm sure, have seen me dance in my car, as I do sometimes in the school drop-off line, but that's okay. Life is short. Find the joy where you can. That's my recommendation. So as long as no one else has anything to add, we'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I make a motion to.
Just move.
Oh, second then, whatever. Whatever.
Okay.
It's too cold. Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, so 7:29 PM, I call the December 8th, 2025 meeting of the Carver School Committee to a close. Thank you very much.
On your motion toes.